At Season 5, The Legal Landscape.
You're listening to The Edge 105 FM. 105 FM. 105 FM.
Today we're looking at hackers, choppers and scammers, the cybercrime era. And we ask, what are my rights when my personal data is compromised? Now, you know, data is a commodity as available as any product or service in any industry. And with technology developing so quickly, cyber attacks are getting more sophisticated and are on the rise. In 2021 only, there was a 550% increase in reported cases of cyber attacks in the Caribbean, according to a 2021 report by Mandiant Advantage. In Jamaica, it is reported by the Bank of Jamaica that in 2021, $81.23 million in losses are associated with internet banking fraud, a 17% increase from the previous year. And just less than 2 months ago, Mailpac reported being impacted by an Aeropost data breach that resulted in credit cards of approximately 5% of its customers being compromised. So the big question is, what do you do when your personal data is compromised? And we are joined by Associate at DunnCox Attorneys-at-Law Ms. Samantha Grant, who will discuss this very relevant and intriguing topic. Samantha Grant, good afternoon. Welcome to Home Run on the Edge.
Good evening, Diane. Thank you for having me.
It is great to have you with the legal landscape. And I guess I'll have to ask you first off, Samantha, how do you know when your data has been compromised?
Well, to give a clarification and context, what you will normally hear or see reported is that a company or any data controller is affected by a data breach. Now, that does not mean that your data was compromised. Now, in order to know whether your data is compromised, that company, once the Data Protection Act comes into effect, is supposed to notify all its customers that were affected within a specific time period. So at that point, you will know whether your data is compromised or you suffer the effect of any data, of your data being compromised. So those are two ways that you will know. Mm-hmm. Either the company will catch it before, or you are notified once something happens as a result.
So what do I do in the event of a data breach or incident?
Well, the first thing is the most practical thing: cover your bases. So everyone knows that once you feel your card or your account has been compromised, you change your password, you call your bank to request a replacement card, you block any card that is likely to be affected, and so forth. So if it's an account, you focus on passwords, you implement two-factor authentication, and so forth. Mm-hmm. Now, in the event of a data breach, the first thing you should do is contact the data protection officer of that company to get more information with regards to that data breach. So that's the first step. You cover your bases and contact the data protection officer.
All right. So the data protection officer is the first person to be contacted when your data has been compromised.
Right.
Then what should the data controller do in the event of an incident of a data breach?
The data controller is to notify you within a specific period of time that your data has been compromised, and they should tell you what steps they have taken to repair or mitigate against the effects of the breach. Now, upon being notified of that, you should, again, we go back to the practical things: cover your bases, change your passwords, replace your cards, and ensure that all of your information or access to your information has changed.
We're inside Season 5 of The Legal Landscape, and you're listening to Associate at DunnCox Attorneys-at-Law Ms. Samantha Grant. Samantha, you've mentioned the data controller, but what if the data controller fails to act?
No, that is the question. So when the Data Protection Act comes into effect the November of next year, that be November of 2023, they are supposed to make a report not only to persons who are likely to be affected, but also to the Information Commissioner. Now, if they fail to do that, and you see a report and your data is likely to be affected, your first recourse should be to contact an attorney or a data expert so that they can advise you whether you should go to the Information Commissioner or whether you should be looking towards commencing a claim or an action in court. It is very, very important that you get this advice so that you don't waste your time and your money going to court when having not explored the other avenues as outlined in the Act.
And if the data controller fails to comply with any notice issued by the commissioner, how do we get compensated?
Right, Dion. So the Information Commissioner, when you approach the Information Commissioner, she has certain powers. So she can issue an enforcement notice, an assessment notice. She has different powers under the Act that would allow her office to obtain the information that you need and that they need in order to make an assessment. Now, if the Information Commissioner issues a notice to the data controller and they fail to act, she also has other powers under the Act, whether it's criminal or civil. She can move to commence action against that data controller. So as you can see, with the implementation of the Information Commissioner, there is this shield or protection for data subjects, regular persons like you or me, so that we aren't the ones always enforcing our own rights under the Data Protection Act. Now, the Act outlines that if you are able to prove that you have suffered any damage, if you've lost money, if you suffered any damage as a result of a data breach, you are likely to have a claim against the data controller. And this is where you will need an attorney to advise you to commence an action in court.
Oh, Samantha, that's a lot of information. Thank you so very much for helping us.
It is.
We always love when we have the legal landscape as well to have a hashtag, did you know? Do you have one for us?
Well, yes, I do. So did you know that the Data Protection Act, although it was passed in December of 2021, it comes into effect at the end of November of 2023. And therefore, all of what I just spoke about comes into effect at November 30, 2023. All companies, all data controllers, I should say, have until then to get their affairs in order.
And it's going to roll by so quickly. It's going to roll by so quickly before we know it. But thank you so very much for helping us. It's a very interesting topic, very timely. Hackers, choppers, and scammers. The cybercrime era. Thank you for sharing what our rights are when the personal data is compromised. Associated DunnCox Attorneys-at-Law Ms. Samantha Grant joining us today for the legal landscape. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Dion.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.